Olympic glory, the cheering crowds, front page headlines and international fame. When you're a hot favourite in this game, why give it up? Well, that was a question everyone asked when 22-year-old Scotsman Eric Liddell refused to run the 100-yard race in the 1924 Paris Olympics. It was his best event, but it was scheduled on a Sunday. And to this Christian man, Sunday was a day of rest. Some newspapers accused Liddell of letting his country down, but Liddell remained firm. Instead of participating in the 100-yard race, he preached a sermon at a Paris church. However, Liddell still hoped to compete in the 1924 Olympics. He managed to negotiate a switch from the 100-yard race to the 400-yard, an event he had not trained for. Liddell was handicapped from the beginning. Imagine the surprise when Liddell finished 5 yards in front of his nearest competitor and set a world record of 47.6 seconds. The press called it a win against all odds, but Liddell called it a miracle from God. The criticism Liddell received for pulling out of the 100-yard race quickly changed to adoration, and he was showered with Olympic glory. But instead of cashing in, Liddell turned his back on the fame and fortune and followed in his parents' footsteps, becoming a missionary in China. In 1932, he was ordained as a minister, and the following year he married Florence Mackenzie. Eric and Florence had 2 daughters, who they raised in China as they continued their missionary work. But China became a dangerous place to live in the 1930s, so Liddell arranged for his wife and 2 children to leave the country for Canada. At the time, Florence was pregnant once again. Sadly, Eric would not live to see his 3rd daughter. In 1943, during the Second World War, Liddell was taken prisoner with other missionaries and Westerners. He became one of 1,800 people crowded into a Japanese camp.
But when he was in the internment camp, several things. The stories about him are wonderfully kept, and Sally Magnuson of the United Kingdom spoke to many people who were with him, and they all said things like this. When 2,000 of us were put into the concentration camp, there was only one lot of toilets, and within 3 days they had blocked and overflowed, and the smell was just dreadful. And Eric Liddell came in and with his hands cleaned out the toilets and unblocked the sewers. And they said, only a missionary could have done that. A Russian prostitute said, everybody in the camp avoided me. Women hated me and men despised me. He was the only man who talked to me. Boys and girls who were also interred by the Japanese found the system of prison life terrible. So he set up school, education classes. He taught languages, Chinese, English, mathematics, science. Absolutely wonderful.
On February 21, 1945, Eric Liddell died of a brain tumour while still in the Japanese camp. All of Scotland mourned for the loss of a much-loved hero.
I also recently, on a trip to China, went to Wai Fen, where there has been now put up a stone marker with just his name, and it's on the site of the prisoner of war camp, and it just says, "They who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint."
Today, Eric Liddell's remarkable story continues to touch people's hearts. His life story is even documented in the 1981 Academy Award-winning Chariots of God. It's interesting to note, had Liddell compromised his beliefs and given in to the pressure of running the 100-yard race years ago, we might never have heard of him again.
Well, the essence of sport is to develop ourselves, to develop character. And as you move up in elite athletics, you start to lose that, and it becomes all about determining your worth and value as a person. Because that's the big lie out there that elite athletes buy into, that your performance determines your value as a person. And that's a dangerous lie to buy into. And so when you get into the biggest competition of your life, like the Olympic Games, and you march out to that final, you just have crazy thoughts that run through your mind, like, what if I don't do this? What will people think? You start basing your whole value and worth as a human on your performance in the pool. But when you have Jesus as your head coach, you realize you don't have to have those worries or those doubts or their fears. You can enjoy it and embrace it and realize that this is an opportunity for you to draw closer to God. And that's really the other essence of sport is God uses those intense pressures and intense competition to draw Him closer to yourself. My favorite movie is Chariots of Fire. My favorite line in the movie is when Eric Liddell says, "When I run, I feel God's pleasure." And I can totally identify with that, because what he understands is that God has created him to run and created him fast. And when he develops that gift and when he runs fast and he goes all out, he senses God's pleasure. He senses that he's doing what God made him to do. And that's a good thing. And so I know God has made me to swim, and He's made me to swim fast, and when I do it well and I develop it and I go all out and I work hard, I sense His pleasure. I'd say that the Olympic Village is a pretty good cross-section of any part of society. Most everybody at the Olympic Games doesn't mind a little prayer. You know, they always appreciate a verse or a prayer, you know. Yeah, send one up for me, mate, you know. Well, ultimately, for anyone, including myself, my sole purpose in life is to glorify God and enjoy Him, you know, forever. And so to do that, there's two ways to do that. To know God better is to glorify Him, and to make Him known is to glorify Him.